Says we're live.
Welcome to another episode of the Sharing with Shani show. I am your host, Shani McElwain. The Sharing with Shani show highlights ordinary people working for an extraordinary God, sharing love, light, and life. And I am so excited. This is our second show. We started Facebook Live last Monday, and I'm really excited of just what is about to happen. I'm excited for the newness of it all. And thank you so much, everyone that tuned in last week to watch us for the first time. Those that have missed us coming on Facebook Live, those who said, we're so glad that you're back on this platform. Nothing but positive energy and just good stuff all around. So without further introduction, without getting away from all of that. So we usually do our health and wellness segment at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to switch it up and do it at the end. Mika Fresh is a little bit under the weather this evening. So, but she did send in her wellness whisper. And so we're just going to start in with our amazing special guests. And I am going to be perfectly honest. My Word document is not opening up, so I'm going to go off the cuff and introduce her by what I know, because the bio is not working. Thank you for modern technology. But D. Bowden, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Author, best-selling author, multiple best-selling author, business owner, AKA a native of Boston, Massachusetts. I have family in there. Shout out to Boston. And now in the DMV. Welcome to the Sharing with Shani show. And then you, please tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, Shani, good evening to you, all the Facebook family around the world, as I usually do almost every interview. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you listen to this fabulous show around the world. I am D. Bowden, as Shani just introduced me. I'm originally from Boston. So as I like to do on almost all of my interviews, I start off with the fun facts. Fun fact number one, I love Ferris wheels. People are like, what? Ferris wheels? Yep. I love Ferris wheels. So let me tell you where I've done some cool Ferris wheels here in Maryland, in Chicago, and Atlanta, and Boston, where I'm from, and New Hampshire. One of my bucket lists is to go ride the Ferris wheel in London, England. I want to do that one called the London Eye. I just think that would be like one of the coolest things God could do for me. Like, okay, God, we need to work that one out. I need to get to London when we can travel. I need to get to London so I can hang out and say, oh yes. And I'll be able to say, Shani, guess what? Remember when I was on your show? I was talking about that. Girl, got it done. So that's the first thing. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I'm a smooth jazz lover. So I am having some serious outdoor jazz withdrawals right now because this weather is like perfect for smooth jazz. And I'm going, okay, how much longer we got to be on timeout? Can we go back outside and play, please? Because I miss being outside with the smooth jazz. So number one, Ferris wheels. Number two, smooth jazz. And number three, something you would never probably realize is I love hot air balloon rides. Absolutely love them. That's one of the ways I celebrated my 40th birthday is how I took a hot air balloon ride. One of the most majestic things I've ever done.
Awesome. Yeah. And where did you go on the hot air balloon ride?
So I'm from Boston, so right outside of Boston is a state called New Hampshire, and so I literally did. So if you ever seen the old school Wizard of Oz, when they literally blow up the balloon, put you in the basket, 5,250 feet in the air, we did a 5-mile circular radius. It was just amazing for almost an hour and a half up there seeing and I'm from Boston, so the two tallest buildings were the John Hancock building and the Prudential Center, and I could see them. And then just coming down, slowly, and God literally took the bottom of the basket, and we kissed the top of two trees, bounced twice, and then it was it. But it was an amazing thing. Just one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we are there's so much to talk about. I don't even know like where to start, but basically let's start with Soulful Prayers Volume 2.
Sure.
And tell us a little bit about why you wanted to participate in that book and what your prayer is really guiding the reader.
Well, you know what, Shani, you know, listen, I'm a big ham for showing off stuff. So, I'm gonna sit here and look at this, y'all. You'll see this beautiful book. This is Soulful Prayers Volume 2. And my soror, Cheryl Float Williamson, who is the visionary for the book, and super excited, to have been a part of it. The reason I decided to do this, and my prayer was actually called a prayer to forgive. And it kind of starts like this. It says, "Dear God, I learned that I can't pray for my offender with sincerity until I first talk to you about my feelings about the offense." And I'm not going to go read the whole prayer, but basically the reason that I started the prayer or chose to be a part of the book is, number one, because of Cheryl Float Williamson and her lengthy, book projects and the success she's had with several of them. Obviously, we have Kimberla Lawson Roby, who was a New York Times bestseller, who also wrote the foreword for this one. I had the pleasure of being a part of her Soul Talk Volume 3 book, where St. Marshall wrote, who the president, CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, wrote the foreword for that. So I've had an opportunity to connect with Cheryl Float Williamson on 2 major book projects, and it's been really fun. Secondly, I wrote the prayer because I know something personal about the journey of forgiveness. Forgiveness, when you're on this journey of being a Christian, people say, "Oh yeah, you just need to forgive." And it's like, no. It ain't this ain't the I Dream of Genie forgiveness thing. Forgiveness is a decision. Number one, it starts like this. You make the decision, and then you gotta, like this part, if you can see my hand, you gotta work. You make a decision, and you gotta work to join what you said. And a lot of times that takes a lot of prayer, journaling, sometimes therapy, exercise, getting to the root of why you're so upset or what happened to you, and then deciding that you don't want to be stuck in that space anymore. And so I've had to do forgiveness a few times in my life. And so when Cheryl said, "Hey, do you want to be a part of the book?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And she's like, "Your prayer is really good." And I'm like, "Thank you." And it's because this wasn't just let me just write a thing on a prayer on forgiveness. This was, I had to walk this out and learn with God how to do this so that I could move forward in my life and now be here today, not harboring, stuff about some things that had happened in the past. Because, sometimes, let's be honest, life happens to all of us. And there are times when life happens to us and it's like, I tell you, forgive and forget, you ain't doing neither one. I ain't forgetting nothing, and I ain't forgetting anything.
Right.
You just stuck. But until you decide to make that decision to take God at his word and start to do the work so that you can get better and get over and get to a better place around the issue or issues, you're not going to move. And I had to do this. And so it was an opportunity to do this and celebrate. So there you go.
And Dee, why do you think it's so hard for people to forgive? Why do you think it's like because a lot of people, and they probably won't admit it, but a lot of people are harboring things from childhood, right? And so why do you think it's so difficult?
Well, number one, I think it's difficult to forgive because, number one, if you've been hurt or disappointed or frustrated, sometimes it's just like you don't even number one, it's hard to forgive because you don't always understand why you need to do it. Because the way forgiveness has been presented is that if you forgive, it's like you're letting that person get away with whatever they got away with. And that's not true at all. You are forgiving so that you don't implode, that you don't keep being angry and bitter and stuck in a situation that sometimes happened many, many years ago. And let me be, for the record, let me be clear. I am not saying that whatever trauma or drama or stress you had that has impacted you for a long time is not impactful. But what I am saying is at some point, you got to make a decision that I'm not going to remain a victim to the stuff that happened to me years and years and years ago, and I'm not going to keep reliving it. To me, it's kind of like, this is going to be a kind of a morbid example, but it's the best I got. It's kind of like going to a funeral and you done watch the whole procession and everything happen, and put the casket in the ground, put the dirt, put the stone. You keep going, taking the stone off, taking the dirt off, you put the casket back on, you just keep reliving and reliving. And it's like, at some point you have to close that chapter, just like when they put the casket in the ground, they put the dirt and the stone. That's it. I mean, obviously the person's a believer, they're with God, but I'm saying in terms of the physical piece, that piece is, that chapter is closed. And I believe that in that example, and the same thing with why people don't forgive, is that they keep reliving the same pain over and over and over. And it's just like, you can't heal because you keep bringing this up.
Right.
Now, I understand, let me be clear. I understand that you do have to talk through the stuff. You got to get it up and out of you. That's for sure. You got to get some release from the stuff. But at some point, you got to make a decision and go, okay, I'm not going back to the graveyard on this thing again, because I don't want to keep being here. I don't want to keep being on this cycle. I want to believe. I have to make a decision to believe God's word that He will give me beauty for ashes and that He will heal me. But I got to do the work to trust Him and work with Him to eventually get to see what the beauty will be when I give Him the ashes.
Yeah, everything that you're saying, 100% agree. And I also, we hear all the time that forgiveness is for yourself. It is not giving that person or that thing that hurt you permission to hurt you again or whatever. And also, forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you can stay in relationship with someone, right? Like it might be that it might be that you need to, that this relationship is no longer suitable to my joy, my happiness, and my self-care, right? And because some relationships could be very toxic. And so it's important to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean a free pass, right? And I think we are, but it's interesting because I also feel like, especially in certain situations, that we, especially Christians, are expected to forgive almost immediately. And that's really hard.
Like I said earlier, it ain't I Dream of Jeannie.
It's not.
And those people who might be listening, what's I Dream of Jeannie? It was an old school television. This lady used to do this, and magically things happen. It's like, no, it is not a Dream of Jeannie. It is a process, and sometimes it takes a while depending upon how it is. So, but anyway, I hope that made sense. And whoever's listening out here, I hope y'all get your paper and pen, because you're gonna learn some stuff hanging out with me and Shani tonight.
Right, absolutely. D, you should have been on here years ago, because you are already fun. Like, it's like, so let's talk about multiple books. So we talked about soulful prayers. Let's move into BCS. Did I get the acronyms right?
BCS Solutions, my company?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, sure. BCS. So BCS Solutions got started because of a story of what happened to me personally. So about 15 years ago, I'm originally from Boston. I think if I didn't say, let me say that. So shout out to Boston. We're gonna put Boston on the map for sure tonight. So I'm originally from Boston. So I used to work for a small IT company right outside of Boston, where I'm from. So they sold software licenses, computers, everything with IT. So anyway, they had a bunch of accounts that they had a lot of product that it sold. So they sold $8 million worth of product, which is sales on the books but not in the bank. So I've been in collections and contract administration for over 20 years. So I've always dealt with contracts, money, problem solving. That's kind of been my career. So they said, hey, D, we're going to hire you as a collector part-time. Here's your list of accounts and you need to do that. So it's interesting. I literally said, I looked at the accounts and I was like, y'all have that $8 million worth of sales on the books and ain't none of this collected. I was like, wow. But after I said, wow, I went and said, hey God, can I talk to you for a quick minute? He's like, sure. And I said, I don't know what had happened here, but I need your help to figure out how to recover this money. So after I said my short prayer, I literally went to work and I recovered $6 million in 60 days while working part-time.
Wow.
Now, the wild part, thank you for that part of the story. That's the wild part, but the deeper part is this. On October 24th or 5th, the CEO says, listen, everybody come downstairs and have a chat. Now, for all y'all who are listening, I always kind of say, if you have a boo or a booette, if he or she says to you, listen, we need to have a chat, that's kind of a clue for, this ain't about to go really well tonight. We got to have a talk. So we come downstairs and he says, listen, I want to thank you so much for your services, everybody across the board, that's sales and order entry and collections, everything. But we've made an executive decision. We're closing the business and you got 30 minutes to pack up your stuff and leave the building. And I was like, what? I just collected $6 million. I got to do what? I mean, I was stunned to say the least. And I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, like so 2 months before Christmas, everybody, almost 100 people lost their jobs. So that started a journey for me to figure out, how did this happen? Number one, excuse me. And number two, how do I take what I love to do, which is collect money and solve problems, and create a business that will help small business owners not end up like that again? And if you fast forward to right now to 2020, we've got lots of small businesses that have been impacted by the coronavirus, and we don't know whether they're going to recover, because a lot of them probably had sales that were outstanding, but unfortunately they won't go recover their money right now because the kind of tricky situation. But my point is, I created BCS Solutions to do two things. One, which is to help businesses recover their money, but number two, teach them the importance of knowing the state of their flocks. Flocks meaning how much is in your accounts, and why do you need to know what's going on, so you don't end up blindsided like what happened to me working for that company.
Right. I'm gonna just give a shout out. So we're speaking live with D. Bowden, author, entrepreneur, like lover of jazz and Ferris wheels. And so I just want to shout out a few people that's watching us tonight. Vicky, by way of Georgia, Nicole down in Chesapeake, Tammy Carpenter, thank you so much for watching. Somebody else just joined and I can't see who, but I
see some people in my watch party, so I've got a few people that have come through. I'm saying good evening. So I've got Athene Wilson and Suzanne Thomas and Deborah Wilson and Kevin Wayne Johnson and Marva Chamberlain and Cassandra Spearman. Thank you all for joining this conversation. Appreciate your support.
And so, and if you have a question or comment, or if you want, you got a small business and you need D to get your money in collections, you contact her. Okay. And D, tell people where they can get in contact with you.
Sure. So on social media, I'm D Bowden, but my website is www.collectthecash.biz. That's www.collectthecash.biz. And if it's okay, Shani, can I go ahead and tell them about the free gift?
Absolutely. Yes, we love free.
Listen, for y'all coming through and supporting me, y'all get a free gift. If you go to www.collectthecash.biz, halfway down the page, you'll see a free ebook. It's called Collect the Cash. It's my 5 steps to collect your money. So first name, last name, email, and you can actually subscribe and get the book. So again, www.collectthecash.biz. And then your first name, last name, halfway down the page, first name, last name, put your email address in, and you can download the free ebook. And then, on social media, I'm Facebook, D Bowden, Instagram, Bowden D, which is my last name, first name, and LinkedIn is D Bowden as well. So
No, and then indeed, especially in this, we're in this global pandemic. There's a lot of small businesses really are the heartbeat of the economy.
Yes.
And so what any tips or anything that you can offer to small business owners right now that may be feeling like in this position of I know everybody is going through it, but you're also late. But I don't even know how to even ask
because sure.
Because it's just everybody's going through it. So How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I mean, thanks, Shani, for asking the question. Number one, everybody isn't going through it, but there are some chunks of businesses that are. So the first way you go through it, number one, is if you have a contract and agreement with your service provider, your customer, you got to go back to your contract. What were the terms? What did you sell them? And what did you sell them? Number one, let me slow down. What did you sell them? And then what were the terms? When were you supposed to deliver the product or service? And then when we supposed to bill them, and when were you supposed to get paid? If you've done your part of the contract and done, deliver the product or service, you've billed them, and it's 30 days past when the money was due, it's simple. Either you or whoever's in your company gets on the phone. Hi, I'm D from whatever company it is. I'm calling about contract number, blah, 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 invoice number, blah, 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 for the amount of. Can I speak to the person in accounts payable, please? And they'll transfer you. And then you have a conversation. And number two, when you explain to them you're calling about a past due invoice, show them respect. Number one, understand, listen, I appreciate that everybody is going through cash flow issues at the moment. Like to find out what's going on with our account, number one, and number two, can you tell me approximately when this invoice will get paid? And then be quiet for a second and pause and let them tell you. Mm-hmm. And that's the first thing. Secondly, if they come back and they say they haven't paid you because there's a problem or there's an issue, thank them, number one, for telling you what was going on, number one. Number two, write it down. Number three, follow it up with an email and confirm everything that they said that was an issue, and that you will take immediate action to get it fixed. And then again, thank them again for letting you know, because sometimes you don't know that there's a problem until you get into the invoicing or they go in to collect the money. You're like, oh, well, I didn't realize there was a problem. Well, if you're paying attention to the state of your account, you would know this. And so if you didn't know, now you know. You thank them for it, and then you take a quick email. And the reason you do an email is to document that you heard them, number one. Number two, it's to put in writing everything that they said. And number three, you have a record for yourself and for them. That's right.
I'm going to tell this story because I'm a storyteller. So I've been in business for 5 years. I would not add a late fee for 3.5 because I probably was 6 months into my business and a guy told me because I was Christian, I shouldn't charge a late fee. And I was like, why we gotta bring in God? We really gonna bring in Jesus to this conversation? Like,
yeah, and if you study the word, look, and if you study the word, Jesus talked about money all the time.
I was
like, tax collectors didn't play. They look here, you owe us these taxes. Look here, it's in the book. You need to pay us. We ain't playing.
Listen, and then I have a mentor who was like and really my very first client, Tashina Davis, was like, you better charge late fees. Like, I was just like, but no, it took me 3 years to start adding that little 10% on there. Like,
but you got it.
I have,
yes. And here's the thing, and it's okay, because this whole journey to entrepreneurship and managing money, it's a process. I mean, I didn't, the story I told earlier about collecting $8 million, I didn't just wake up and start doing that. I had to collect, $100 and $1,000, and I had to grow and learn the art and skill, the dance of collections, because collections is two things. It's problem solving, number one, and number two, it's an extension of customer service. And number three, if you talk about it from the consumer side, when people hear collections, people like cringe and they have all kinds of horror stories. I'm professional, number one. Number two, it's business to business, business to corporations, and business to government. That's the lane that I'm in. And that's a different animal, and it's a different way of dealing with things. You can't handle business. You can't handle business like you would a consumer. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do that anyway. But I want to say that for the people who might be listening, like, oh, well, I've had this bad experience with collections, right? And it's probably consumer debt, meaning credit cards, medical bills, taxes, things like that. Right. That's not what I do. I'm talking about business to business, business to corporations, business to government. And a lot of that, the success I've had that God has blessed me with has been learning how to do this with a art and finesse. Number two, building relationships. And number three, it's something called gratitude. It's a simple thing. Thanks for taking my call. Thank you so much for doing the research. Thanks for making sure that I got my check. And then sending a note saying, thanks for making sure we got paid. You'd be amazed. I mean, and the $6 million that I recovered in 60 days while working part-time, that was done on phone calls and emails only. I never saw these people on the phone, but I followed up with a thank you. And I'm telling you, gratitude, life-changing, life-changing.
Let me shout out a few people that are watching, D, and then we'll transition to another topic. I got Letitia Nicole. Awesome. She's going to be our guest next week.
Oh, cool.
Erica Reed is watching. Dr. E out of Baltimore. Ty Davis out of Baltimore. Jerica. Ty said that irks me when people do that. She probably talked about when people try to throw in that.
Oh, yeah. Hello, I said hello.
Lasonda and Glenn Bell and Michelle Pilates. I'm messing up names.
Don't do that.
To high school with her. Thank you so much for watching. So D, let's talk about Speakers Magazine.
Okay.
Pull it up. You had it up. You had it up earlier.
I got to look at all the people that are coming through. I got to shout them out. I gotta say hello to the peoples and make sure I acknowledge them. So, Speakers Magazine. So first of all, here we go. Soul for Prayers Volume 2, which Kim Coles is one of the co-authors in this. Now we've got Speakers Magazine. She's on the front cover. Pam Perry is the publisher of this, and then yours truly gets highlighted once again. Can y'all see?
Yep.
And my article was called "I Just Spoke. Now Where's My Check?" And I talked, and so Pam Perry gave me an opportunity to share my collections skills with her speakers community and to say to them, hey, if you've ever spoken somewhere for a corporation or a company or an agency or association and haven't gotten paid in 30 plus days, now there's a resource, meaning me, that has a company that can come in and help you figure out why didn't you get paid and help you collect your money. And I've already said thanks to Pam Perry for that, and of course to Kim Coles for shouting me out as well. But also just an opportunity to expand, to continue to take this love of collections and recovering money and sharing it in different venues and different ways and serving people, and that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you serve the small business community?
Oh, well, right now, what part of how I serve them is right now is having conversations like this, is getting on podcasts and telling my story, telling them that I worked for a small business that thought they were doing great, and then letting them know that, if you don't pay attention to the state of your accounts, you can potentially have a financial issue or setback. The company that I worked for, I was an employee. And so if there are small business owners that have employees or may have employees, knowing what's going on with not just your sales, but your products and your services, but also your money, that's a very important thing. And I know it's like, you're so busy chasing the next sale, the next customer. I get all that, but you cannot be so focused on getting the next sale or the next customer that you neglect the back office, meaning that you know how many customers do you have? So here's how I have served them. First question: how many customers do you have? Do you have a tracking system? How do you know how many accounts you have? What's the name of your customers? How much money? How many sales did you get? How much is the contract for? What's a product or service? What are you delivering to them? When are you supposed to deliver it to them? When are you supposed to bill them? And in my lane, when are you supposed to get paid? That's how I serve them. Like that simple example is how I teach small business owners that you need to track your account. You need to know that, because, like I shared, what happened to me personally is why I do what I do. I went to work for a small business owner, had like most of us do. You go to work, you're thinking that everything is cool. I never, and especially after they gave me all this money to collect, and I did my part to collect $6 million, and the company still went out of business. Now, I know this part. I will never know all of the factors that made that company close down, but I do know that 100 people lost their jobs 2 months before Christmas. And if there are small business owners listening now, one of the things you can do is that realize you're not just in business for yourself. There are people that have bought onto your dream, that are working with you to help make you successful. And I went to work for this company because I was like, I like IT and I like doing what I do. And I'm like, hey man, my whole world turned upside down in 2 months. What? So I serve small businesses by teaching them about knowing the state of your accounts, number one. Number two, I teach them that, especially if you or someone in your company is going to collect money for you, building those relationships is vital. Expressing gratitude. People laugh at me all the time. They're like, you do gratitude. Well, yeah, I do gratitude, and doing it the way I've done it has gotten me featured in some really cool magazines, and it's like, yeah, it works, and God's blessed it, so I'm sticking with it.
Right. So we're gonna transition a minute. You've been in several books, right? Can you name the other books that you've been in, D?
Sure. So I've been in. I'm a co-author in Soul for Prayers Volume 2.
Okay.
I'm a co-author in Entrepreneur Elevation by Dr. Cheryl Wood. Here's that.
Okay.
And I mentioned speakers, and then also, I was the book sponsor for Soul Talk Volume 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how can people go? Where can they go to get these books?
Okay, so Soul Talk Volume. Actually, you know what? Can we put it in the chat?
We sure can.
All right. So if you want to get a copy of Soul Talk Volume 2, which is I'm in right now, you can go to bit.ly/Soulful Prayers 2020. So that's bit.ly/Soulful Prayers 2020.
All right. And Donna will put that in the chat for us now.
Yep.
She could copy and paste it. I just sent it to her. I think.
Yeah. And do you want the other link as well, or just?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
The other one, if there's a way to serve small business owners. If you're a small business owner and you're struggling in your business and you need some strategies to learn how to do it better, the book is called Entrepreneur Elevation, and the link is bit.ly/elevation 2019. So it's bit.ly/elevation 2019, and it's Entrepreneur Elevation, 31 strategies to improve your income, impact, and influence. And I talked to you again about collecting the cash.
You said Elevation 2019?
Yeah, Elevation. Yeah, bit.ly/elevation 2019.
Okay. I want you to stick around so we can talk about the Wellness Whisper. So for those of you who are just joining us, Mika couldn't be with us tonight, but she left us the Wellness Whisper. And the Wellness Whisper for this week is to make joy for yourself. And so Mika says that the good news about joy is it's internal. We have control over it. There's always going to be something we can be unhappy about, but even in the thick of it, we can choose to make joy. And I thought that would be a great way to kind of end our conversation tonight. Sure. Is to talk about joy and trying to find joy, especially in the middle of everything that's going on, right?
Yes.
Corona, the Black Lives Matter elevation, because it's been let's be clear, that's been around, but it's just has this resurgence. Yes. Right, with the murder of George Floyd. And so I just want us to spend some time with joy. And one of the things in my second book, It's Time to Make a Change. It's a 30-day journey. It's a 30-day devotional. And at the end, the last day, on day 30, I write in the book, enjoy the journey, right? And sometimes as of late, it has been hard to enjoy the journey, right? It's been very difficult. But then I also realized that it's little small things that remind us that joy has nothing to do with what is happening around us. Yeah. And that finding joy, looking for joy, holding on to joy should be this constant pursuit of. That's just my thoughts. Dee, what would you say on that?
Oh my gosh. What am I saying about joy? Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, joy, like anything else, is a decision. It's a decision because you can decide to be joyful in the midst of trying circumstances. You can decide that, just like I talked about earlier, I mean, to me, having joy is like having gratitude. You can decide, I'm gonna be joyful, I'm gonna be grateful, even though everything is not the way I want it to be. Now, I understand that sometimes even making that decision to be joyful, it means that it does not mean that you are not acknowledging what's going on right now. It doesn't mean that you are ignoring, the plight or the pain or the difficulty or the loss. None of that. And it's not. I do it again. It ain't the I Dream of Jeannie thing. It's not that. But what it is that you're saying that I'm choosing to find the good in the midst of some tough times.
Right.
And I'm gonna focus on what's good. I'm not ignoring what's wrong or what's painful, but I'm gonna decide that I'm gonna focus on what's good, and I'm gonna hold on to that. And I believe that as I hold on to that, as I focus on what's good, I will pull myself up out of the funk or the sadness or the pain that I might be in. And I'm not coming out of it like this, but I'm gonna start declaring. I'm start making some declarations so that my mind and my body and my spirit can go toward the declarations. The declarations for me would be the word of God, would be some of the declarations that I've learned. Like the Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear?
Right.
Whom shall I be afraid? He's the strength of my life, and that's it. I'm gonna declare that, and I might not feel that he is all that, but he is that, and I'm making that declaration, and I'm gonna start working toward that, and right. Then you're gonna see as I continue to work toward that, you're gonna see my smile. You're gonna see me sit up a little straighter.
Right, I'm gonna sit up straight.
You're gonna see it start to bubble, because especially if you've made enough deposits of the word or songs or hymns or however you do it, eventually it may not be right here. It's got to come out of here, but eventually you keep calling it up. It's going to eventually show up. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you like that?
I always like it. Anytime I talk about joy, I always have to bring up. So there's a scripture. You guys already know, if y'all been following me for a long time. I don't quote. You got just go Google it. But it says, it's in James. It's somewhere in James, New Testament. Count it all joy, right? And the Greek word for account it's like bigger than our English dictionary definition of count. It is to consider, to really sit there and ponder, to write a list, right? That it's bigger than just count. Like, it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is like you gotta really. When James is writing that, he's like, you gotta sit there and count it all joy, every single thing that has ever happened. And then you're still here.
And as I've been saying, in order to count it all joy, guess what you got to do?
What's that? Have gratitude.
No, make a decision. Make a
decision. Right.
That's it. Because it all starts with a decision.
Yeah.
It really does. Even to count it all joy. Even to count it all joy starts with a decision. You're like, come on, D. Well, look, you don't have to believe me. I'm just telling you what I know.
Right.
I'm just telling you what I know. Any change in your life. Okay, let's take what's happening. You mentioned, getting away from the media, but we're going to use the media for a split second.
Right.
right now. Now, there's, the Black Lives Matter. Unless you've been under a rock, you know that Mayor Muriel Bowser had Black Lives Matter painted out in yellow down 16th Street that goes straight to the White House. How do you think that started? A decision. She had to decide that she was going to paint Black Lives Matter down the street. She had to decide that she was going to change the address to Black Lives Matter Plaza, I think is what it's called now. But it all started with a decision. Then her decision became, well, the thought became a decision became action. Next thing you know, we got Black Lives Matter in big yellow letters. You can't miss it. They got Google. They got, look, it's already on Google Maps. They already got the aerial picture of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But hey, but real talk, it started with a decision. Just like counting it all joy starts with a decision. You can declare I'm gonna count it all joy, but you may not. You have to declare a thing, and then you have to work to reach your declaration. I said earlier in the conversation about forgiveness. Forgiveness is a decision first. Starts here. You here, you know, you right here, but you know, right here in this hand, you're like, look here. I still got some feelings about this situation, and I'm not there yet. But the goal is that once whatever you decided, you're going to eventually work toward it. And it may take you some time, but it's a decision, and it's a decision that you have to continue to manage, just like you manage everything else.
Right.
My personal thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and it just goes back to the beginning of our conversation about forgiveness, right? That starts with the decision too, right? You know, like even our Christian faith starts with the decision. You got to decide. There's a decision. All of this is the free will and the free invitation that is given to us, and this is great. So we have some amazing comments. Dr. E is such a great fan, and he's amazing. He's like, yes, joy. Thanks, Tyrese, for joining us.
Yes.
Tammy Carpenter says we can focus on what's good. Amen. Our hope in glory is always good news, no matter how we feel. Great ideas. Thank you, Tammy. And so as we wrap up tonight, Dee, what would be some final thoughts that you would like to share with our viewers tonight?
Well, my first thought is thank you, Shani, for this amazing opportunity to be a guest on your show. I have had so much fun, and you're right. I should have been on here. Yeah, I should have been on here. But seriously, thank you so much for the opportunity to share your platform, to talk to the listening audience, to share some nuggets of business skills for the small business community that's listening, and also some words of encouragement to everybody else. That's the first thing. Secondly, I would definitely tell you, I'm gonna go ahead and plug it one more time. I would tell you we're gonna plug Soulful Prayers Volume 2, and the link to purchase it is bit.ly/Soulful Prayers 2020. This is a phenomenal book that talks about prayer, about the power of prayer, and why you need it. My chapter is about forgiveness, which is what we're talking about tonight. But more importantly, it's all about prayer, and it's about, you know, it gives you prayers to address almost any situation that you face, and that's important. The third thing I would say is that gratitude is one of those things that for me has personally been a life-changing lesson, and it's just been the little things. We were talking in the beginning of the show about, you know, how did I get connected, with you and Cheryl Williamson, and I was like, I came to a dinner. Mm-hmm. And we found out that Cheryl and I are sorority sisters, and then you and I remembered all these connections that we've had. It was just like, but even then, you know, it was an opportunity to say thank you for remembering that, and then all these years later, here we are connected in several different ways, and it's been great. And so sometimes it's just you know, taking a moment to reflect on the blessings that you've been given. And when you get a chance to say thank you, you know, I can't give you a hug, but I can say, thanks, Shani, appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's been exciting, and I appreciate you coming on as well. Donna is putting the link to get your books and to get more information Those are in there. If you want to be a guest on the Sharing with Shani show, we air every Monday night right here live on Facebook Live, and then the replay is uploaded on YouTube. The Sharing with Shani show highlights ordinary people working for an extraordinary God, sharing love, light, and life. Come on, be a guest, talk about anything. This is your platform. It's your time to talk about whatever. I don't pick the topics. The guest picks the topics, and we go from there and let the Spirit lead us. So next Sunday, I'm saying Sunday because my guest next week is Letitia Nicole Beatty, best-selling author, preacher, minister, friend, and she'll probably take us to church, so you don't want to miss it. And so thank you so much, Dee. God bless you.
You too.
Thank you,
everybody.
Donna, in the background. God bless you. And thank you to everyone that is listening. Have a good night.
Good night. All right, let me